I'm so glad to have you all tonight, and with the chance that I could present a topic about precision medicine and also personalized healthcare. So maybe let me share a screen first. So I hope you all can see that. Okay. Okay, good. Now, well, the reason I would like to have this topic is because from time to time that people know that the medical health care or the medicine is actually involving a very big group of people, involving, of course, the frontline physicians, the nurses, the pharmacists, who actually work so hard, like in the COVID-19, that this is actually really among them the courage to actually fight against the diseases for the patient. But with, of course, nowadays, with the increased awareness of health, that basically patients are actually in a high demand on information about the knowledge of medicine. And also with the new diseases and also some incurable diseases, that there is a need and demand to develop new treatments to combat against these diseases. So I would like to take this opportunity to share with you what is the role as a scientist in the medical faculty and in the context of medicine. How could they contribute to the society? Now, first of all, I would like to ask you a question because this is so important, okay? It actually helps us to understand our understanding about disease and treatment. Now, all of us would get sick, right? So if you get sick, what would you do? Okay, I just refer to some simple sickness like fever, flu, etc. Now, there are three options for you. Either you may approach, say, the drugstore to get some over-the-counter drugs. So over-the-counter means that these are the drugs which don't require prescription. You can just approach the drugstore and then get the drugs that you want, like Panadol, Tylenol, some fever-curing medications. And you may visit the family doctor, okay? Or, well, you may just leave yourself to heal naturally, okay? So just want to know, okay, you can type in the chat box, okay, and let me know. Which one would you choose, A, B, or C? C, okay, I see some got C, okay. Well, a few of you type C, okay. Okay, good. Very, very good. Well, it seems I have quite a balanced answer. Okay, some of you chose A, okay, just like me, I always get headache, so I will rely on Panadol or Tylenol. And I occasionally go to the doctor, okay, unless I get some really serious sickness that I couldn't cure for a long period of time. But if I could, and if I have the holiday, then I'll just leave myself to heal naturally. So thank you for answering these questions. I'm really happy to get your answers. So I briefly checked that I got a quite balanced number of answers from you. Okay, so thank you. So yes, that's the way we deal with some simple diseases, of course. Okay. But you have to know that, okay, well, we are not always lucky to get some simple disease like fever or flu or cold, okay? Like under the COVID-19, that the pathogens are basically unbiased. They are just equal to everyone. So what I mean unbiased means that they are not biased in terms of, say, irrespect your, say, which country are you coming from, okay, well, no matter what gender you are, okay. So this is the dashboard that I just actually obtained this afternoon, okay. So as of yesterday, that we in the whole world that we got 82,000, close to 83,000 of new cases yesterday. And it caused the whole COVID-19 as of today, that it caused a number of deaths, which is close to 1/4 of the million. Okay, so which is actually quite a lot, So it is a very sad incident. So you may agree that pathogens and actually these diseases actually are unbiased, that they will attack anyone irrespective of the geographical location, irrespective of race, gender, age, or occupation, etc. So that it actually raised our interest in knowing, okay, because from time to time people will get sick, but of course we don't hope that we always get COVID-19. Well, actually in Hong Kong, we got a very tragic, experience some years ago, okay, 17 years ago we got SARS, okay, and 17 years later we got COVID-19, okay, but this time many countries in the world were also affected. Then, of course, then we are interested in knowing how much we actually spend on medicine worldwide. Now, this is actually data I extract from WHO, and you can see that the projected expenditure is keep on increasing, and in 2023, that it is expected that expenditure will be close to or over 1,500 billion US dollars, so which is quite a lot if you convert it to your local currency, right? Then it raises a very interesting question. I'm not sure whether you have this in mind. Well, why do we need to keep on increasing the expenditure on medication? Does it mean that we are getting greater threat of diseases in the future? Does it mean that COVID-19 or COVID-20, okay, will come and attack people, okay, so that we have to spend more money? So this is the first question, okay, of course, come to my mind, but of course, we would not expect, we don't hope that to happen. Now, if we try to look into the data by geographical location, you can see that this projected expenditure, the biggest country or biggest consumer of medicine would be the United States. And the second biggest country would be China. Second biggest consumer would be China. And of course, you can imagine in the United States that they have a very well-developed medical system. They have insurance, okay. So, and also they have a lot of people. So you can imagine that they will spend a lot on medicine, and this medicine may not be limited to the treatment of diseases. It could also be some medications for prevention. Okay. And for China, it is quite interesting to know that, of course, we know that China has a lot of people as well. But for China, I recall that I visited a pharmaceutical company a few years ago, and they told me that they have a vision to develop their own drug, well, which are the off-patent drugs. So what does it mean by off-patent? It's like in the past, producing insulin is a technology specific to a particular drug company. And it got a patent so that this company is protected and the other companies cannot, okay, copy that formula and do the drug. But the drugs could be off patent, say after 20 years, 30 years, if no new information is submitted for that. So the other companies can compete with the market and they can actually produce their own drugs. So China, with their big population of people, they believe that if they rely on the other countries to produce the drugs, that it is actually quite a big burden. So therefore, they have the vision to actually they have a very big evolution in the biological industry, biopharmaceutical industry that they develop their own biologics drugs to support the need of the people. So you can see that the increase in expenditure basically could be due to the big demand, increasing demand from people, and it could also be cause of, say, keep on increase in the human population, because there is no indication that the population would decline suddenly, and we could expect that in a few years later that our population will keep on expanding. And it could be due to the reason of improved longevity, okay, better medication and healthcare so that we can live longer, money spent for preventing diseases. We may have some food supplement or some medication to treat some small problems and then we can have better health, and even expenditure on diagnosis, that means checking of diseases. So then it comes to another question. That is my favorite questions to my students, okay? While we're talking about spending on medicine, so what exactly medicine that we're referring to? So who can let me know, okay? What is medicine? What is the nature of this medicine? Would it be something, I mean, of course it is used for curing the diseases, right? But medication, or in the past, yes, okay. Shivan, okay, please, go ahead. Oh, maybe you cannot use the mic. Create physiological responses. Okay, good. Okay, some chemical compounds to treat disease. Reduce symptoms of disease. Yes, very good. Okay, really nice. Yes, medication, of course, in general, from our understanding, is something that can treat the diseases to reduce or elevate the symptoms, okay, or compounds to treat the disease or an infection. So yes, Sama, you have a very good explanation. You point out one of the very important characteristics of this medication, in particular those have been used for a few hundred years, is their chemical by nature. Okay, so most of the medication we use in the clinical setting, in most of the time, they are chemical drugs. So chemical drugs, that means that they could be synthetic, they could be synthesized at a relatively low cost, okay, and we can ensure the quality of the drug. But the bad thing of this drug is like paracetamol or even aspirin, the mechanism is by blocking, say, some kind of cell receptors. They block the activity of a biochemical reaction so that a protein cannot be produced. In order to block or making some of our physiological pathways non-functional. So that's why we say that they are drug, okay, and usually they are toxic in terms of, say, their activity, they are toxic. And an example that you agree that it is toxic is chemotherapy. That we basically use the chemotherapy to cure cancer, right? So they are basically harmful to the cells. So then there is a very interesting blog that I read on the internet, that is the bloggers that drugs are not therapy and therapy is not drugs, because drugs is not something that is essential in our life. It's used for treating diseases, right? Then with these, of course, we know that with these drugs, they are chemical by nature. They could be killing cells. That there must be some adverse event when we introduce to the body. No matter if, say, original intention is to cure, if it's for curing diseases. So then from time to time, the scientists actually try to develop some other alternatives, and with the hope that for sure is to treat some diseases that are unable to be treated by chemical drugs. Now, diabetes is a very typical example, because we of course we have some chemical drugs to try to promote, okay, the secretion of the insulin. But for some patients who are having inborn error that they couldn't produce insulin, like type 1 diabetes patient, and they basically rely on supplement of the insulin. So what is insulin? So insulin is a hormone, okay, so that it is protein by nature. And if we try to synthesize a protein using the chemical method, that it doesn't work. So that means that we have to use some more innovative way to produce that. And this method is called the biologics. So there is a history about the production of insulin in the past, that some people, some scientists and some doctors, they identified some substance that is actually produced by the pancreas that could actually lower than the blood glucose level. So the very classical experiment is like they try to remove the pancreas from an animal, like from a dog, and try to grind the tissue of the pancreas to make it homogenate, and then try to purify the substances produced from the pancreas, and then we inject back to the dog. And they found that this substance can lower down the blood sugar concentration, and they believe that this substance could be the treatment for diabetes patient. So around 100 years ago, there is a gentleman called Leonard Thompson, who is a 14 years old with diagnosed with diabetes. He actually got the treatment. He's the first patient treated with insulin. So this is the story, how we start, okay, thinking of, okay, well, chemical drugs doesn't work, then we have to use other ways like biologics, which are basically biological in nature. They could be produced from natural sources, from human, animal, microorganisms. Okay, they could be vaccines, blood products, proteins, okay, or even gene therapies. Of course, if these are produced from human or some other animals, how many animals we have to sacrifice, right? It is not feasible if we try to sacrifice 1,000, 10,000 animals for just treating human, that we are so selfish, right? So later on, we developed some way genetic engineering to produce the recombinant proteins. And nowadays, most of the insulin we use they fall into this category of biologics. However, no matter if we're talking about the chemical drugs or biologics, that they are still working or being prescribed to the patient with a very, very bad mechanism, which is often called as the one-size-fits-all mechanism. So you know what is one-size-fits-all, right? That is, well, with the same drug, you just prescribe to different patients, okay? Like Panadol, I got a headache and I take Panadol. Then if you also get headache and if you also take the Panadol, then the response time to the drug could be different. I may take, say, 30 minutes to take the drug effective. And in your body, that the drug may take maybe 10 minutes to be effective. So one size fits all generates a problem is like the same drug, if it is prescribed to different patients, they could have different response. And somehow the response is not that ideal. And usually the amount of drug that we give the patient is based on trial. So this is not ideal, right? If the drug is being under-prescribed, of course, the drug may not have the adequate action to add on the patient. But if the drug content is over-prescribed, then we could kill the patient. It may be having negative effect to the patient. So that's why eventually it evolved from one size fits all mechanism to a stratified medicine mechanism. That means that we try to prescribe the drug to patient based on the drug response, but we try to maybe adjust the dose, okay, like chemotherapy, okay, then we adjust the dose, but still this is still based on trial, and it could maybe supplement with, say, the patient's risks and disease subtypes, then we try to make it more precise, okay, but still, we're still using the same medicine for treating different patients, but just varying the dose. So then it comes to our interest. How can we make it better? How can we treat the patient better? So what are the information that we have to get in order to allow the treatment to be more precise? So this is the reason that why we have precision medicine. So it is basically, apart from knowing the individual variability, the disease subtype, the risk, etc., we try to understand the genetic makeup and the interaction somehow of genes with the environment and also the lifestyle of each person. Now, in the past, we have heard from the term, okay, about the term called personalized medicine. And nowadays, this term slowly fades out because of the fact that personalized medicine gives people an impression that this drug is specifically tailor-made for an individual. And in reality, this is not realistic. Because if the drug company just develop one drug for one people, they will lose a lot of money and they're not going to develop that drug. So it gives us a wrong perception about how to treat patients. This is actually not the reason that we develop personalized medicine. The reason for that is we would like to base on each genetic makeup, each individual circumstances, so that we can prescribe a more precise, prescription to the patient. So that's why it comes up with the term precision medicine. So in order to achieve that, we have to understand the genetic makeup of the patient. And of course, we need bioinformatics, which is basically equivalent to big data, that we have the genetic information of each patient and also how the body responds to the drug. We can collect these so-called pharmacogenomics data. And also basic bioinformatics, okay, so basically different trials and also signaling based on the research. So a combination of these could help us to make a more precise prescriptions to the patient. So is it something new? Okay, it is not something new. The idea has been inherited to our past, classical treatment for a long time. So this example, I'm sure that you will be familiar with this example, blood type matching. This is actually the early concept of precision medicine, because you cannot give a wrong blood type to anyone, right? You cannot just give a blood type A, a blood type with type A to an individual who has the blood type O. Okay, so this is actually an individual, early concept of precision medicine and also organ or tissue transplant. But still, blood type matching or organ tissue transplant are only limited to another small group of diseases. And nowadays, what is the top killer, you think? What is the top killing disease worldwide? Of course, it's not the need of organ transplantation. Well, yes, we are in big demand of organ transplantation, but this is not the killer disease worldwide. So this is the statistics of Hong Kong, okay? I try to pull out more latest statistics, but they are not available. But you can see that over the, close to past 7 to 10 years that cancer is top killing disease in Hong Kong and also worldwide. The GI disease, the cardiovascular disease, and also cancer are also top killer disease in different countries worldwide. So apart from cancer, you can see there are also dementia, the brain disease, cardiovascular disease, and also diabetes here. And nowadays, with the evolvement of the technology, we know that the participation of genes to these diseases are quite crucial. And therefore, we try to find out the relationship between genetic makeups with the symptoms of these diseases and generation of these diseases. So that's how can it help with development of the latest advancement. Therefore, if I ask you again, okay, originally I asked you a very simple question, just basic, say, flu or fever. If this question is replaced by cancer, I'm sure that you will not be able to pick any answer, right? Because cancer cannot be treated by over-the-counter drug. You cannot just let it heal naturally. Basically, cancer kills people by mass, okay? And you cannot just having a family doctor, you need a specialist, okay? But a specialist is only someone who actually prescribe a drug to you. There must be someone who helps to identify the drug, the treatment for the patient, specifically for the patient. So that's how it evolved, okay, the evolvement of the precision medicine, and therefore the role of a scientist, biomedical scientist behind. So from the one-size-fits-all mechanism to stratified medicine to precision medicine, you can see that there is an increased multi-level patient stratification. And we usually use RX as prescription. Usually a common type in pharmacy, okay? And nowadays, we are not just requiring prescription, we also require diagnostic. Because without diagnostic, without the understanding of the genetic makeup, we cannot make a good treatment to the patient. So these are actually the roles taken up by the biomedical scientists, the diagnostic, and also the therapy, and therefore we could come up with the treatment RX plus CDX, okay, which is the companion diagnostic. So with that, we hope that we can increase the efficacy and also reduce the toxicity of the drug and therefore increase the chance of curing the patient. So what is companion diagnostic? It's basically the diagnostic method which is in use in order or in companion with the therapy, so that apart from knowing the genetic makeup and then prescribe medicine, we can also keep tracking, okay, how the patient heal, okay, from such a treatment or how this disease progress. So companion diagnostic is making use of different techniques to try to check the drug response of the patient and also the basic genetic makeup of patient. So it relies on heavily, okay, some technology and also the bioinformatics platform to record down all this information. Now then, if we cannot cure, say, cancer or dementia or some other diseases that are actually quite critical and are not curable by chemical drugs or even the biologics, so what is the hope of these patients? Okay, so there is a new group of biologics which are more advanced. Okay, they are called the advanced therapy medicinal products, which are basically evolved from technology, including gene editing. So gene editing is so important because if we can make use of the gene editing, we can engineer the cells that we want, and therefore evolved to this immunotherapy. This is the therapy which is for using to cure cancer. Okay, we target to engineer our immune cells in our immune system, and then these cells, instead of attacking a particular pathogen, we try to engineer the cells to attack to the cancer cell. And also stem cell therapy. We hope that we can have some regenerative medicine. We engineer the stem cell so that it can regenerate some of the tissues that are missing, or maybe it could be the future hope of organ transplant as well. So these are the new technologies that basically requiring a high demand knowledge base, people who can actually work out this therapy. And because of these therapies that are so new and they are patient specific, that it also comes up with some issue like intellectual property because they're new, okay? And also, when these cells or tissues are being extracted and then infused back to the patient, we have to make sure that quality are all right. So the quality management of the therapies. And of course, because they're so advanced, that we have to have someone to explain to the patient what these therapies are about. So what is the eventual feedback after the treatment. So that it is actually a new paradigm about, say, the whole model of disease and medicine. In the past, people will always think that scientists and researchers are someone work behind, and they are actually quite remote from treating patients, but actually not. They actually play a very key role here, not just because of the fact that they do the research, but they are also take part in managing the quality of the new treatment. They are actually in part of, say, translational, developing the new treatments, and even explain to the patients what this treatment are about. So biomedical sciences, scientists involved in precision medicine, diagnostic development, and a doctor, they have the roles to treat the patient, to cure the patient, and prescribe medications. And for patients, of course, when they have symptoms, they will approach the doctors. But nowadays, they are not just satisfied with, say, being a patient. They hope to avoid or prevent from diseases. So there is an increase in self-awareness. There is a demand on information, and also personalized healthcare. So why are prevention or early diagnosis of disease are concerned? Because nowadays we evolved from, say when in the past we do the diagnostic test, that it is basically focused on a particular kind of, say, disease. But nowadays we try to take a more proactive role in understanding our body. So we have predictive genetic testing. But in worldwide, I must say that we have a high deficiency of genetic counselor. So very often you may see that there are many genetic tests are provided nowadays, but we are lacking of people to explain to people what the test result is about. So Hong Kong is famous and well known of having a long life expectancy. And as you can see, now of course it's 2020, but in the past it was projected that in 2017 that the life expectancy of both female and also male, they could reach an age quite old, but you can expect that this number would still keep on increasing. Say in 2025, we could expect that we may reach a life expectancy on average of 19 years old. So that with such a long life expectancy, then that means that we also need to know how to keep us healthy, how to prevent from, say, diseases. So therefore, personalized healthcare is an issue. So I'm sure that even though these are some advertisements, they are quite famous companies producing the genetic tests in Hong Kong. Some of them are actually also very popular in the other countries. Maybe they are provided by different companies, but very often there are genetic tests target to our metabolism, target to our drug response, or target to our IQ, okay? And even our healthiness of our gut. We have the microbiome genetic test as well. So basically, now as I said, information-based personalized healthcare is becoming, or it has evolved quickly. But the market demand on the manpower to cope with this demand is actually of high deficiency. So not just the genetic counselor, but informaticians, but also the personnel who try to monitor, okay, these different tests, diagnostic tests, develop these tests. Actually, there is a high deficiency of people working in this area. So then, as I mentioned earlier, medical scientists are taking a more proactive role and also important role along the healthcare chain. Okay, so basically, apart from research and also informatics, that people who are willing, who are interested in working in legal field, will have an advantage if they have the biomedical science background, because they will be they would get the first-hand information whenever there is a new innovation, because these therapies has to be registered, they have to be protected by the IP. And also, there may be a startup, okay, that are actually generating these new therapeutic products. And at the same time, in terms of the patient care, that we need genetic counselor, professionals of the new therapies, like quality management of the advanced therapy products, the stem cell, immunotherapy, etc. Which, by tradition, these are not the roles taken up by the physician. So we require people to work in these areas. And also medical reporters, because patients, they are laymen. They would not understand so difficult jargons of the medical field. So these are actually some examples of the jobs that are actually related to the whole healthcare chain. And in CUHK, basically, our program can fit or offer courses and curriculum targeted to this demand. Now, I know I have actually spent a lot of time, okay, and you may want to know, okay, what about medical sciences experience in CUHK? So I must emphasize that it will be eye-opening and there are a lot of opportunities.